Hi everybody, this is day 1436 and we are going to be, wow, I'm just looking at the number, 1436 days since Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. On the Fort Bliss footprint, and we still don't have his remains. Now we have breaking news today, and it's revisiting all the information that we have collected. You collect 4 years of information, and things develop, the whole case develops, and you have to go back with the new understanding that you have, the dots connected, the puzzle pieces coming together, and you have to go back and you review the older information, the initial information that you received, and you put it together with the new vision, the new realization of what you have because of the puzzle pieces fitting together. And I hope this makes sense, that we have so many epiphanies in all of this, so many realizations in all of this. And then you have to go back and you have to look at the older information that you did not totally understand, or you might thought that you understood it, but that you go back and you review it and you're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense now, or that's how this plays in. This is how it fits into the puzzle. We found a new piece to the puzzle that was sitting there all along. And so this is why we get so many breaking news, because we're always going back and we are always constantly reviewing this case and putting the puzzle pieces together. And so today I'm going to be talking about Belen Rocha. Belen Isabel Ortega Rocha. And, I was just jotting down some notes, and it's just incredible. And before I get into discussing Belen Rocha and all of the new information combined with what we were told initially, and having the bigger picture of Belen Rocha, it just all makes sense. Before we get into that, I wanted to go back to Richard being murdered on Fort Bliss, and his remains have not been given to us. Now, we have been retaliated constantly, severely, since the beginning of this. There has been interference in our son's case. This is absolutely 100% a cover-up. There has been tampering with documents, unauthorized access to information. We even, in the meetings, in the initial meetings for Task Force Find Richard Halliday with 15 plus agencies there and more, we were saying that there was interference, that there was tampering, that there was leaks, that there was, something going on that was really, really stinky. And of course, with the whistleblower that officially filed a complaint about the tampering, about Leilani Hart receiving unauthorized access to the CID files because her quote unquote family member who she was having, sexual relations with, gave her unauthorized access to the files. And of course that was corroborated by our discussion with James Courtney Hart, her husband at the time. They've since been divorced. But these are both the parents of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader. And we have multiple witnesses that have placed him as the platoon leader. It wasn't us. It wasn't us that said he was a platoon leader. It was the witnesses that said that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader. And that has been corroborated by the United States government. And, so, and what do you mean by that? Well, where is the platoon leader, right? And, where is Delta 143? Where is Delta 143? Where are those first sergeants, right? What are they up to? What are they doing, right? Are they conspiring? Are they part of the cover-up? Because the government never contacted us, okay? What is the motive for the unit never contacting us, for the command never contacting us? The motive is forensics. You need time to cover up a murder, because you have to cover up the forensics, right? And that takes a lot of thinking, a lot of time to do that. And we know that, even with the tampering of and the unauthorized release of documents and reports, and we know one thing for sure. It all confirms something is right in it. And the confirmation is that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss, that his death occurred on Fort Bliss, and we do not have his remains. So when a death occurs on Fort Bliss and you don't have his remains, that means that it is murder, okay? The only option, looking at all the documents, even, what they've attempted to, manipulate, the truth that sticks out is that the only option in this case is that Richard was murdered, that he was murdered, because otherwise they'd be able to give us our son's remains, right? And we have confirmation that he was murdered, that he was good food for the coyotes, by the Director of Emergency Services, Thomas Kane. And Thomas Kane even confirmed that it was a real mess on Fort Bliss, with the 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, right? The 14-year-old girl living in the barracks, being prostituted out, and that girl being the stepdaughter of a member under his leadership, a guard, right? So someone that is supposed to be guarding who is on Fort Bliss, who comes on, who leaves. And the stepdaughter is living in the barracks for weeks, right? Wasn't it 4 weeks? And there's more, and being prostituted out. And, we know that when you're prostituted out like that, it's not just a one-time thing. It's pretty brutal. It's terrible. It's very terrible. It's the exploitation of our children, and for the most part, it's as of now, late. It's of our females, right? Of our women, and so, and I think that's a lead into Belen Rocha, talking about Belen Rocha. And thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you so much for your love and prayers, because we really need it during this live stream, talking about underage, so children, minors, being exploited sexually. That is what is the discussion for this, and I'm probably going to have to be careful how I say this on a live stream so I don't get kicked off. But this uh, attempt to cover up and tamper with and sabotage this case going forward. That's the only reason why this is so delayed. I want everyone to understand that our son's case is delayed because of the the group that is part of the original emergency response team that keeps on continuously tampering, having unauthorized access to information, to mislead, to manipulate, to meddle with the law enforcement community, to sabotage their investigations, and not only that, to botch them. And so, it's very clear that that's why we have the delay, all the interference. And that interference is continuing. But as they continue to interfere, they get sloppier. See, the group, I think, is getting smaller. People are starting to realize, hey, this is a capital murder case. And, this Lydia Smith, who is Leilani Hart. Okay, y'all, this person that just kind of like popped in, she didn't just pop in. All right. This is someone that absolutely understands this case. And, we believe that it is Leilani Hart. And, to not be honest, to not tell your real name, to use a fake account, to retaliate against a family that just recently, just recently received the official news that our son had been murdered, that, and received the gold stars, which, it's the most horrible thing. It's really the worst. And this retaliation, the tampering, what it shows is having unauthorized access to certain photos, to certain files that are given illegally. Okay? Even pictures. You can't take screenshots off of government in a government facility on a government computer. You can't just take pictures off of screens. All right? You just can't do that. That's illegal. And then to get access to files that have not been properly redacted and then to post them, that's all illegal. So, they can, pretend all they want that it's legal. But one thing that we did discover going through and comparing it to what we have is that there's things that are missing. There's letters that are missing. There's information that is missing. And so the file is not complete. We have the complete file. We have all of the information. Okay? We are the ones that are the investigators. We provided the information. And then, of course, we received the information because we have the letter of death for Richard. And so we have this information, and, why why, other than wanting to direct the narrative in this story so that the accountability won't happen, that there's a continuous cover-up in this case. That's the only motive that we see, right, for such criminal activity. And going into Belen, that Belen is associated with Leilani Hart, that Belen is associated with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who was, targeting our son's case, and, the object, really, the concern with the district attorney's office of Yvonne Rosales of the false distribution of the Walmart mass shooting victims' funds going, really, that Rosa Maria did not qualify for any of those funds, and yet the money being distributed very healthfully to, big chunk, lots of big chunks to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And Rosa Maria has conflicts of interest with El Paso Community Foundation and West Star Bank. So, this kind of connections of Belen Rocha with Danae Katzen, with, we could go down the list with Melendez, right, the canine cop, with 3905 Bliss Avenue. It places Richard's case right with the Walmart mass shooting case. And, the big thing to understand about Belen as she has gotten older is we have the information. Look, October 2020, she turns 18. October 2020. That means she was 16 years old when Richard was making his complaints. Okay? She was 16 years old. She was a child. Those porn videos that he turned in, that she admits to, right? Those are illegal. That's child pornography. She admits to sleeping with multiple men. Of course, she, in her adult entertainment industry, and that's exactly what we have been confirmed that she's involved in. The federal government confirmed that she's involved in prostitution. Okay, that was very early on. Very early on, and you can see it in my live streams. Very early on, the U.S. government confirmed that Belen Rocha was engaged in prostitution. Okay, so that means that it is not crazy to assume that she was engaged in prostitution, being exploited on Fort Bliss, because Fort Bliss had a underage prostitution problem. They were exploiting children on Fort Bliss for sexual favors for pay. That is nothing new. There are lots of stories with that. And so now let's go through the line. Let's go through the list. And I'm just going to do it all from the top of my head. She's a convicted criminal. She's a criminal. Belen Rocha is a criminal. And she has been confirmed by the federal government to be engaged in prostitution. And it is not absurd to say that there is a big chance, a very big chance, that she was engaged in prostitution on Fort Bliss. A huge chance. And there is also a chance, because of the location of her home, because of her being connected to Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal, and part of the adult entertainment industry, right? She was receiving her mail at Dreams Cabaret. And of course, with her family history of incest and child sexual assault and on, child pornography, and also being connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And Belen is connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia at 3905 Bliss Avenue, along with Danae Katzen, who is connected to William Molinar. What is he in trouble for? Sexual assault of a child under 14 years old. The continuous sexual assault of a child under the age of 14 years old. So this is, and then being part of all of that, Richard was warning her, right, very early on, and so that puts her at a minor, okay? She was a minor, and he warned her, and he was giving her, messages. I rather burn my money than spend it on whores and blow, right? So they don't even say prostitution on Fort Bliss. They go right for the derogatory. Right for the derogatory. And also, Richard's audio message to her very early on, because we know that there was a breakup in their relationship in 2019. And it wasn't much of a relationship. It was because this is another thing that we've, maybe I'm putting the horse before the cart. I mean, the cart before the horse. But what I want to get across is that with Leilani Hart being a convicted criminal, being connected to Dreams Cabaret, being connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, being connected to Danae Katzen, being connected to the likes of William Molinar, Leilani Hart having this family history of incest and child porn and child sexual abuse. There's a common theme here, and it is exploitation of children for sexual favors, right? For sexual businesses. And, Richard was warning Belen about this, but Belen thought that, otherwise. She wanted to listen to her influencers. She agreed with her influencers, and she doubled down and into the adult entertainment industry. She doubled down with it. She totally embraced it. So even though, Richard warned her and said, they say they respect you, but they really don't. Do not listen to them. They don't respect you. And the men, because he was talking about the women, like Leilani Hart, right? I mean, who else is he going to be talking about? Like, is it Amber Chase? Is it Leilani Hart? It's those like kind of characters that, have a huge influence over these young people. And the adult entertainment industry has a huge influence. And is known for manipulating younger individuals. So, uh, we just hope that Leilani Hart um, did not influence Belen Rocha to work at Dreams Cabaret. We really hope that that's not the case. So, this is, yeah, it's stunning to even say that. But Belen is a criminal. She's a convicted criminal. When I talked to her on the phone when she was still 17, she had an uncanny um, knowledge about illegal drugs, which really indicated to us, that was one of the number one things that came out of that, is that she had this incredible knowledge of illegal drugs. And that indicated to us that she was in the business. Okay, she was like doing a Vanna White sales pitch, So maybe Vanna White's not really the best example, but she was absolutely doing a sales pitch. She knew. I would almost say she wanted to show us that she knew all of these illegal drugs, at 17 years old. And she just thinks that's normal. And that's fine. And it's not. It's not. In my book, in my opinion, it's not fine. Unless she wanted to be a pharmacist, I don't know. But that doesn't seem like what she wants to be, right? What she wants to do, seems to me, is be in the adult entertainment industry. And the industry is very cruel. And it really exploits children. And Richard knew that. And this is something that I might have not said enough. I know I've said it in the past, but I don't think I've said it enough. Richard was trained in making Child Protective Services complaints. He knew how to do it. He was trained in doing it. Why do I say that? Because he worked in the child care industry for, just a short time. But in that short time, he was trained on the Child Protective Services complaints. Because that, if you're going to go and work with children, and that's why he had this Hollywood money. If you're going to go and work with children, you have to know what the boundaries are for especially when you are overseeing caretakers. What are their boundaries? What do you teach them with children? And what are you looking for when you're looking at the children? You have to be aware of any kind of abuse that these children are getting before they come to you. So he was absolutely trained in what to look for, and how to give a complaint to the Child Protective Services. Very important. And about the Hollywood money, because he worked with children, he would give those as a reward. So that was misused. This is why I say we have all the information. And I shouldn't say all, but we have enough. We have more than anyone else. And that is because he would give them, when they behaved really well, he would give them, a Benjamin. Now, a Benjamin, just, fake money. Um, so that is why he was absolutely trained in taking care of children and reporting any misbehavior, and also looking out for how they were treated outside of the care center. So, if anything was amiss, he would report it. And that's why he had such a love for children. He really had a love for children. We have a love for children in our family. And Belen Rocha was a child. She was a minor. And, what was happening with her, we believe now, with all the new information, that he was reporting her to protect the women, to protect the children, to protect all the children. And we have confirmation that what was going on at the emergency intake center was absolutely horrific. Was absolutely horrific. They were shaking in their boots because they did not want to report it, because they were so afraid. They were so afraid of being killed. But Richard was very brave, and he reported it. And yes, he paid with his life. This is, yeah. So, but Belen Rocha, being a convicted criminal, being connected to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, which is the Walmart case, see? It's the Walmart case. Being connected to Danae, being connected to Leilani Hart. She being confirmed a prostitute by the federal government. She's just in a bad situation. Up to no good. And she chooses to be that. This is not a victim. She absolutely chooses to be in that bad situation. And yeah. Wasn't she underage when she initially went to Fort Bliss? Yes, she was absolutely underage. That's the new news now. Is when Richard was reporting her, because you have to remember she turned 18 in October of 2020. So about the end of October, 2/3 way, right? I think her birthday is the 24th of October. Am I supposed to say that? Anyway. But her birthday's in October 2020. She was in 17 in 2019, right? Before then, 2018, she had turned 16. So she was 16 in 2019, all through that time that Richard was making the Child Protective Services complaints. And he was there in 2018, so, there's a chance she was even 15. So 15, 16 years old, he started making Child Protective Service complaints, IG complaints, talking to FBI Houston. There was, and we have it from the Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz, that they were bringing in the girls, even during the COVID lockdown. Okay, and he said it so la-di-da that it was the norm. It was the norm, and I've been saying this for a long time, they consider it the norm. And we have corroborating witnesses that the girls were standing there at the visitor center, and the cars would come and pick some of them up and go in. Another car would come, pick some more up and go in. Another car would come in, pick some. And these visitation passes were given by the DES Thomas Kane. And we have it that the 14-year-old girl was living in the barracks, being pimped out, not only on Fort Bliss, but also Camp Pendleton. There, we know that there was a lot of sex cult activity. We know that Leilani Hart's family, because now we have corroborating evidence, and of course we're still looking through the hard drive for more corroborating evidence when it comes to Belen. But we have corroborating communications between Leilani Hart and James Courtney Hart, the parents of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader. The family, long history of incest, child abuse, child sexual abuse, and that corroborates her affidavit about the child pornography. We have information that Dallas Hart, as soon as he came back, he went over looking for the child pornography. He was worried, you know. So you have Belen Rocha working in the adult entertainment industry. You have Leilani Hart getting her mail there at Dreams Cabaret. Absolutely adult entertainment. She's absolutely involved in adult entertainment, and you know, with this long history in the family of child exploitation, right? Child assault. You know, we have more witnesses that have been bullied, that talk about more of the problems and these little business connections, you know, and the continuous unauthorized access, illegal access to federal documents to obstruct justice in our son's case, and also evidence, obtaining evidence illegally, exposing the forensics of it. So that means that they are disseminating this information, which is illegal, because that makes them part of the whole murder case. You know, why would you want to be part of a capital murder case, especially, you know, in Texas? I mean, do they have a get out of jail free card? Do they have a get out of the lethal injection free card? You know, because why would they be so reckless with their lives? They're absolutely reckless. And they're reckless with their connections, because this is an abuse of power over and over again. This unauthorized access, this reposting is the way, you know, you can say you got things through the FOIA, but you know, that's not how it looks when you circumvent the FOIA and then try to fake it. And these people are absolutely continuous liars. They just lie all the time. And the other thing about Belen that I said and Rob said very early on when we had the interview with her is that she had no real knowledge of Richard. And revisiting that information So everything that Richard said to her was a concern for the children. It was a concern for her as a child being exploited by the adult entertainment industry and the prostitution ring that was going on. Because, and I feel really good about this because when you hear your son saying, Belen, don't do it, they, do not respect you. They say they respect you, but they really don't. They think of you bad. And the guys, they don't care about you. They don't respect you. They're just horny. They just want to see you naked. When you hear him say, you're like, oh, okay, did he care? But that's just not the case. The case is, he cared, but not this whole girlfriend thing. That's all fabricated because she, re-listening to it, she does not know. She has no familiarity. That's the right word. She's not familiar with Richard. She's not familiar with him and his personality. Not a joke, not a story, not a cute story, not a bad story, not any story. Also, no physical evidence. Richard had major physical marks that absolutely anyone would, that knows him would know to say. You couldn't miss them. Okay? You could not miss them. And it wasn't a tattoo. Okay? So it's just something I haven't said because someone that really knows him, or when we get the autopsy report, I want to see it, because that is absolutely identifying marks. They are marks. It's not one mark. It's marks. And I want to see if if the paperwork shows because right now it's so long, the identification of Richard. But she really, did you report the fact that her children's friend believes she may even be involved in her own child's death? All the abuse her own child endured, reported by her son's friend to you. Oh, you're talking about Lalani, yes, and Etty. Yes, that is absolutely. Thank you so much, Danielle, because that is a huge point. Huge point. I think she is pretending to not be familiar, trying to keep herself away, but out of this investigation, in my opinion, playing ignorant, in my opinion. Yeah, and her mother, so Richard is reporting all this stuff, and I call her mother up very early, and her mother's like, I don't know, Richard. I didn't even know there was a missing soldier. I don't know anything like that. And I'm like, okay, something is very fishy going on here. Because her being a minor, she was already interrogated multiple times. Now, if she is going to be interrogated, the parents have to be there. And so Lydia's telling me she doesn't know anything about Richard Halliday's case when Belen had been interrogated over and over again. And as a minor, they needed to absolutely have the family with her when she was interrogated. And even when Phil Waters entered the house, that was very inappropriate. And in the audio, well, it's a video recording. Lydia Rocha comes in, Ortega Rocha. She comes in and she's like, what's this about? She wasn't even informed that they would be there. And I know that she, Belen was an adult at that time, but And Belen goes, it's about Richard. And she's like, oh, okay. So, but, they're talking about, well, he's leading her. He leads her the whole time, um, about the sex videos, her with multiple men, and this all occurred when she was very young. So, yeah, this Belen is absolutely has so many problems. And, with her knowledge of the drugs, with her criminal history, with the federal government admitting that she is a prostitute, and then her connection with Danae Katzen, who's connected to William Molinar, who's connected to Amber Chase, who's connected to Belen, who's connected to Dallas Hart. Dallas Hart. Okay? And, that's not a mistake. That's not by my own making. That's the way it is. That's where the evidence leads. And Belen is then connected by 3905 Bliss Avenue with Danae, but also with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, who connects this whole thing with the Walmart mass shooting case. And why would Rosa Maria even care to interfere in our son's case? Right? Why would she even care to do it? But they are connected. And that connects the two cases. And there's more that connects the two cases. That's just one thing. And, this adult entertainment industry, this Dreams Cabaret industry, this, I'm praying, oh my gosh, please no, right? Please no. But they do know each other. Leilani Hart absolutely knows Belen Rocha. And, it's not a secret. So, and one other thing is she claims to have messages by Richard. Look, Richard's phone was removed. So, when all this started, and I thought it was strange, and we kept getting messages about Richard's phone, and everybody wants to know where Richard's phone is. And Richard told us, and this is in May, right? This is in May and June when he had to go through his 45 days. They were retaliating against him. And he told us that he lost his phone. Well, we all know now that it was taken away. Because we have information that that's what they do. The platoon leader, ooh, who's that? Dallas Hart will take the phone away. They will take your phone away. And so that is absolutely why Richard could not have written any message to Belen. And why? There's just a lot of questions around this phone issue. But that number, it's not possible. It is not possible. So maybe someone out there has some information about that. But Richard's phone was taken away. So that's huge analysis that we're trying to make through all of this. And, we were given a lot of messages that were fake messages, that were fabricated. I think that's the best word. Fabricated messages from Jay Pollan, from the person that distributed his car. The whole car thing is absolutely not what we were reporting because of what we were being told, right? Everything has, um, you know, come to light with more and more information because the tampering, the amount of misinformation and tampering going on in our son's case was exactly the purpose of this breakaway group that were the first responders to cover up the murder of Richard. And so that's why you had Anthony Swafford thinking he knew what kind of character Richard was. And he was wrong. And so they were putting out a lot of fake, false information, fabricated information out there. And it really did delay and mislead this case. And it's because of that there is such a delay. But, we're catching up. We're catching up, and we're absolutely, I can tell you right now that the information they have is not complete. It's missing all kinds of information, and it is also illegal. And anyone disseminating it, and I want to tell everyone to be very careful because that would also be illegal to do that. So, and I hope I covered really this whole thing with Belen. With Belen, with our reports. That's why, you didn't see a lot of activity on Facebook. We are just putting out report after report after report. We're reporting this criminal activity over and over again. That's why we've been making movements. In the movements, so there's still always a battle. But even in that, we glean all of the information, right? All the forensics information. And it's been very, very helpful. And it made us revisit Belen. And she's just, I want to make sure I have some notes here. Make sure that I covered just that Richard was making all of the reports because he wouldn't look the other way for the children. And Belen, he knew, was being exploited. So, was there a really, did she, I just, after revisiting everything, I don't think so. I don't think so. Not anything close. No. No. Yeah. I mean, I do not doubt that they knew each other. I do not doubt that they had conversations, but no. I just don't, if you're saying, oh, he cared for her, Richard was a very interesting person. And of course, he cared for someone being exploited. Okay, but he was a beautiful, beautiful young man, but in total control of himself. So, yeah. And people are going to be like, oh, no, yeah, because they would have put that out there already, y'all. They would have already, any kind of messages, oh, I love you, oh, this, oh, that, they would have put it out. But that's not what happened. And even, yeah, maybe the individual had his phone, was sending messages. Yes, that's what I believe. What do you think she was trying to tell you when Richard first went missing and she messaged? Well, it was clear what she said. She said that Richard had left and would appear again in January of 2021. January 2021. That he just left. And it's the same. Look, we got the message on 1st of September 2020. We got the Jay Paula message on September 3rd, 2020. And it was the same message, right? It was the same message. Oh, don't worry, he's gone. Right? You can, of course, Jay Paulins was a lot longer, had all this information. But what he was telling us on the phone when I called him was, oh, he's gone. He's gone. They needed time, you see. They wanted time for the forensics. And they didn't want us to come to El Paso, because they just wanted us to not do anything for a long time and they could handle everything. See? But that's not what happened. We came. And so, yeah, she was trying to make him look bad. Yeah. And so was Jay Paulin. They were all trying to, in that group. Not everyone else, but in that group. And that group has an abuse of power when it comes to the law enforcement. They have, it was Tavita Nusa with the picture to the Interpol. Okay, and let's talk about this picture for a minute. The picture was released on October 22nd, 2020. Or taken, right? They went and hunted for this picture on October 22nd, 2020. Well, that rings a bell because 4 days later, you had Nadal Bayim going into a Dollar General saying that they found Richard dead. So that was in the Dollar General. Of course, they already knew that they had found Richard dead. So they found his remains, and they, to me, my suspicion is that they devised a plan how they would try to cover up this murder. And that was, of course, to smear Richard first and foremost and make him look bad. The group has proven who they are. Yes, absolutely. She was the last person to talk with him. Yes. Yes, and they have committed, in the last 2 days, they have committed a lot of crimes. A lot of crimes. And, so we've been reporting it. We have absolutely been reporting it. And so this is breaking. And if they're depending on, and who are they? They are the breakaway group from part of the initial original emergency response team for Richard. They are the prime suspects of the murder of Richard. They are criminals for the most part. They're criminals. For the most part, they're all engaged in a sexual cult activity. I would call it a sexual cult activity. They, have this history. It seems like so many have a history of crimes against children. And, so this is, they have proven who they are, just like Danielle said. They, it's... I think this is a child sex trafficking ring. I think so. I think that's what Richard was reporting. Now, am I allowed to say that? I don't know. But that's on my mind. That's just on my mind that I'm, with all the information that we have. And their histories. Right? And I think that they were exploiting young girls on Fort Bliss. And I think that they were servicing soldiers on Fort Bliss with young underage girls. So, yeah. And Richard wouldn't have any of it, and he reported it. And, so if he had any of it, he wouldn't have reported it. But he reported it. So he didn't have any of it. And he got retaliated against, and severely, continuously, until I think circumstances with his exoneration, with politics, I think that's what spurred on the murder, because they were getting caught. She sent a letter to the family stating Richard can dig a great foxhole. Yeah, a group has proven who they are. She was the last person to talk with him. And I don't think so. Not anymore. That's something that, because Richard didn't have his phone. They had taken away his phone. And so this whole thing, I think that might have been a psyop. Because they would have produced the conversation, and they never did. And they never contacted us. They never contacted us. Never. They didn't wait 24 hours or 36 hours or 48 hours or, they never contacted us. When did they contact us? Never. And they tried to push Richard off the rolls. I mean, they did. They pushed him off the rolls. And, we had to fight to get him back on the rolls. So we had to fight to get help, and they made us the investigators. And so here we are. Yeah. She was trying to make him look bad. The group has proven who they are. I was thinking that the recording may have been the last conversation she may be talking about. Yeah, they would have provided the conversation. And, they were really protecting her. And, you would think that she would run, right? I don't want to talk about any of this. But she didn't. So there was, to me, that's an indication of some kind of agreement, long-standing agreement or agreement between them. And it is not absurd. It is what is going on our military bases at that time. There was absolutely prostitution going on. So, Richard apologizing. The one with Richard apologizing. Okay, so if you want to know what that, because I haven't posted it, but it is very, very similar to watching Glendon Oakley Jr. on August 4th, 2019. He was absolutely being retaliated against. And he was making reasoning arguments, given reasons, and pushing, like Glendon Oakley Jr. said, don't focus on me. We're supposed to be focusing on the victims. This is kind of what Richard was absolutely doing. You could see the same psychological harm that was done to Glendon Oakley Jr. Within one day. You saw that in Richard. And Richard, absolutely was fighting for his life, which means that he was concerned for his own life, which means that he was not in the mental state of not being concerned for his own life, if you know what I mean. He was absolutely concerned and fighting for his own life. And just the fact that he was crying tells you that he was. So, Yeah. Thank you so much. And um, yeah, and I absolutely think that he was telling her that he meant, everything for her good. He didn't want her to be exploited. So I will go back and I'll listen to that again. It's so hard. It's so hard to go back and listen to Richard and see him suffering like he was suffering and fighting for his life the way he was fighting for his life. But and knowing what they did to him, it's the main point is that Lydia Smith is absolutely, there's no doubt in my mind. Now you might have a doubt, but that's Leilani Hart. Okay, that's Leilani Hart, and so that should just tell you everything. And that the picture that they are using, that's out there, was uh, illegally taken on October 22nd, 2020, just a few days before Nadal Bayim told the cashier that they had found Richard's remains in Juarez, Mexico. I think that's huge. The whole timing, the whole timeline really reveals everything. And because January of 2020 was a first contact, and even sorry, Belen says this, that they had been, you know, they broke off any kind of communication. And in January, she kind of asked him for a ride with his friend. If they had any kind of relationship, familiar relationship, he would have went into the party with her, or they would have went somewhere else, because he didn't like those kind of things. But, um, you know, her knowledge of the drugs, her participation in the adult entertainment, um, her admitting the multiple men, her the sex videos, like, whatever. um yeah, it just screams. She is very influenced by this group. They say they respect her, but they don't. And Richard had the number. They don't respect her, but she has chosen that industry, that at that time, that's what she chose. And it's, they had a lot of influence on her. So nothing she writes, nothing that she has, um, can be counted, no, as credible at all. Especially when the government confirms, even underage, that she was a prostitute. So, okay, thank you, everyone. God bless you, and I will be back. Thank you for commenting. What do you think she was trying to tell Richard at the first meeting? What do you think she was trying? Make sure I've got all the questions answered. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And I will be back on tomorrow, God willing. And thank you so much for sharing and liking and commenting. Good night.